Hello, America, and to our friends around the world, greetings, welcome back. Right off the bat, let's start with the reason behind education costs, but you can apply this to everything, whether it's groceries, whether it is renting, buying property, a home. Whenever there is a third party, especially a third party that, excuse me, a third party that has the ability to disrupt the entire market that's incentivizing and paying for it. This is what happens. People demand government doles out student loans to increase access. Tuition skyrockets. People attend school for useless degrees that have no productive value and add no human capital. All right, before I continue on with it, because let's take a look at these first two bullet points. People demand government doles out, in this case, student loans. But think about food stamps, the SNAP cards, the supplemental nutrition, and the Fannie Mae, Fannie Mac, or Freddie Mac rather, for securing home loans. Those have contributed significantly to our runaway inflation costs. So just as tuition has skyrocketed, so have your grocery bills, so has your property bills. And then it continues with bullet point two, can't get well-paid job to repay student loans for inflated tuition. You cannot get, because you're already, a lot of people, what's going on is that they buy the boxed food, whether it's junk food outright or it's the Swanson's TV dinner, but they buy it thinking they're doing right by buying it, but it's already overpriced. They lose the skills to cook, or they lose the skills in which to assess proper property values and determine whether or not they can afford it, which oftentimes they can if they'd actually sat down and did the numbers and did some budget tightening to, for that 6 to 18 months. Going back to this is the cause of inflation. When you have a third party that's paying for these things or guaranteeing it, and then you can't discharge it, that makes it even worse. All right, bullet point three. People then work at low-paying service jobs and realize the income isn't enough to repay the loans. This ties back to eating boxed food. You come home from your 40-hour a week, the 8 to 10 hours a day. Then you're doing your secondary job, your side hustle. You're beat, you're tired. The last thing you want to do is wait 20 minutes for a chicken breast to grill on your skillet because people are impatient. They just want to eat, get showered, go to bed, or something to that effect. Let's see. Demand government increase minimum wage to $15 to subsidize their poor decisions. Service jobs replaced by robots and hours reduced. People now unemployed, bankrupt, rinse and repeat. So this isn't just a calling out education and the government's interference causing the problem. If you're not familiar with the economist John Maynard Keynes, look him up. That's K as in kilo, E as in echo, Y as in Yankee, N as in November, E as in echo, S as in Sierra. John Maynard Keynes is the thought leader whom politicians adopted his economic philosophy. And that school of thought is the reason a lot of the reason we're in the mess we're in now. Look up Keynesian economics. Nixon famously said in the early 70s, we're all Keynesians now. No, we're not. We're not all Keynesians now, and we never should have become Keynesians. Government stepping on the accelerator to overfund everything has caused a massive disruption of our society. All right, let's take a look at this one. A wolf attacks a sheep. The sheep dies. Other sheep observe the killing and notice that teeth kill, sheep. Now, everybody's heard the joke, Oh, the sheeple, and it doesn't matter which political philosophy you lean towards. Bottom line is the opposition is always sheeple because oh they're in a cult. Oh look, they're in a cult. We're the free thinkers. Yeah, and sometimes they're right, sometimes they're wrong. Bottom line is this is this meme here illustrates a very popular one, and that is that those who are willing to comply with illegal laws will do so at their own self harm. This is an indirect reference to the next image or the next video that I have to incorporate on here. And I want you to pay attention to this because it's okay when one group breaks the rules, the laws, but you know what? We're going to punish you when we return to power or when we're in power. And again, doesn't matter which ideology you're on. You can see that happening, over the last 4 years or to some degree even present. But the sheep will see it, so they remove their own teeth rather than dealing with the actual threat. Let's take a look at one of these extremists and their attitude towards your individual liberties.
Republicans, you might want to get your shit together, find that backbone along with your dignity that's probably shoved up Donald Trump's butthole somewhere. Because if you keep doing this, not following the laws, not following the Constitution, no due process, so you're setting a precedent, okay? So when Democrats get back in office, which they will because you always run the country into the ground every time you're in office, first thing they can do is look at the Second Amendment. And you can't say shit because you didn't follow anything. They gonna become for guns.
Such a lovely, belligerent individual with whom you would want to associate on a regular basis. But I imagine the same thing could be said for me and some of the remarks I've made. Bottom line is there is a lot of division and a lot of heightened nerves going around, and it just seems to be expanding. But keep in mind this mentality that we just heard of, shame, shame, shame. To quote Roscoe P. Coltrane, everybody knows your name. Okay, let's see. This one I found amusing, but it ties into the same mentality. And that is, there is a certain demographic of the population which is slightly the majority of the population. Like, if I'm not mistaken, about 50.5%, maybe 51% of the population. And that is who the majority of society caters to, both because of their ability to socially rally and champion their agenda, and then those who have power, whether it's legislative or appointment, they they drop to their knees because they want they want a little bit of huggy snuggle action, or positive affirmation from this group. My 18-year-old son left home with our authorization to get an apartment, now refuses to pay his daily parenting fees that he has been paying since he was 13 years old. How would I go about suing him? This is just outstanding. The level of audacity. You're going to you've been charging a boy since the age of 13 essentially parental support, mother support. That is the absurdity. Now, originally, I will confess, originally when I first learned about Vivek Ramaswamy, I thought he was a compelling candidate, and I was interested in what he had to say, and I thought the manner in which he spoke and was able to incorporate people who would go to his speeches. I can't call them rallies because there only had about a dozen people or so in attendance, but the negative ones, the he would actually find a way to bridge that gap with the protester and incorporate their protest and address the issues. That I thought was great until I learned that Vivek Ramaswamy advocates and is seeking to incorporate lifetime alimony obligations for any man who's been involved with a woman and had a child. No. What reason is an adult needing financial dependence on the back and labor of another adult? That's called slavery, peonage, Peonage, and it's prohibited by the 14th Amendment. Even though it's in there, nobody, including the Supreme Court, reads it. But this ties into the whole mentality of you don't have rights, you have privileges. And even at the age of 13, you're still expected to have responsibilities to these privileges in their minds. Your Second Amendment right, your 14th Amendment right, those no, those don't matter. What matters is appeasing that 51% majority. And until that is fixed, our society is going to continue to decay. So if you're not learning how to filter your own water and live off the land, you're going to be suffering painfully, my friend.